So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Business of Aesthetics Expert Panel. I'm your host for the session, Dan Disha, and tonight we are talking about aesthetic memberships and loyalty programs, specifically how to build recurring revenue that reduces the pressure and cost of constant new patient acquisition. This is a very practical conversation. We're going to look at why more practices are not using memberships well, what a strong program should include, and how to price it without undervaluing your practice. And of course, how to launch, retain, and grow over time. Now, a quick housekeeping note before we begin. First, yes, we are recording. You will receive a replay link after the session. However, let's not make that too do not let that make you passive because the real value is happening right here, right now, live. Use the Q&A button for any specific questions you may have for the panelists, and you can use the chat for conversations amongst your colleagues here. I'll have my eyes on both the feeds and we'll weave in your thoughts as we go along. Right. And tonight's panel is proudly sponsored by EquiMarketing, the marketing growth partner trusted by over more than 500 healthcare practices, including aesthetic industry leaders across North America and beyond for over 15 years. Now, the CEO of EquiMarketing is the very same co-founder of the Business of Aesthetics community, Naren Arulraja. And Equa helps practices in three very practical areas. First, SEO and visibility, helping ideal patients find you across Google, local discovery. And secondly, conversion-focused websites, turning visitors into consultation requests with messaging that builds confidence. And thirdly, content and social authority, helping patients trust the practice before they ever book the first appointment. And we got a quick tip here from our team at Equa. This slide sets up a good tension for tonight, which is predictable monthly revenue gives the practice stability. A steady flow of new patients give that practice room to grow. So memberships help with the stability size by increasing lifetime value and reducing pressure of constant acquisition. But the program still needs the right patients to find it, trust it, and choose it. So that is why visibility, trust, and conversion matter so much in this conversation. A membership program is not just a billing idea, it's a patient relationship strategy that has to be supported by the full growth engine of the practice. Now, why do I say this? Because stick around, we have a great resource for you to figure out how you are doing on your digital side of that growth engine, and how to really address situations that'll help you take your practice to the next level beyond 2026. Right. So, like I mentioned earlier on, we are going to discuss why many practices haven't fully embraced these programs yet, membership programs, and what a strong program should include, how to think about pricing up without weakening your value, and what it takes to launch and grow a program patients actually stay committed to. With that being said, let's get to know our panelists who are going to help us through this discussion. Now, first up, we have Steve Keen, financial consultant with Maven Financial Partners. Steve brings more than 10 years of leadership experience across health tech startups, hospitals, and strategic operations. Tonight, Steve is going to help us think clearly about the numbers behind membership programs, pricing, margin, retention, and whether recurring revenue is actually strengthening the practice. Steve, welcome back to the panel.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate it.
Right. And then next up, we have Laura Crowley, CEO and founder of Laura Jeanette & Co. Laura is an esthetician, business consultant, and multi-business owner with more than 20 years in the field. Laura will help us connect membership strategies to sales, team execution, marketing, and operational support that keeps the program from living only in the owner's head. Laura, welcome. to
Thank
the
you. Thank you
panel.
for having me.
Fantastic. All right, then we have Madeline Dahl. Madeline is the aesthetic medicine growth strategist at AI Med Consult. Madeline brings more than 9 years of experience across med spa operations, medical aesthetics, healthcare technology, sales enablement, and practice growth strategy. Now, Madeline will help us think through that patient journey, how membership is introduced, how it is positioned, and how practices can tell early on whether it is becoming a real growth system. Madeline, it's great to have you here on the panel.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great. Now I'm going to stop sharing the slide deck so we can move into the live conversation. Right. Now, my first question to you is I'm having a bit of a mush mouth here tonight. Apologies
That's all right,
for
Don.
that. All right,
Long
Steve.
day.
It has been. Now, Steve, my first question is to you. Patient acquisition costs have risen sharply since 2021. How is that pressure actually changing how practice owners think about patient retention today?
Yeah, I love this question to get us started. This is right along the lines of topics I'm talking about with my practices really every month. We've seen practices grow and have success due to effective marketing strategies and bringing new patients to the practice. Not only is that cost increasing, but also markets are more saturated. There's more practices that are experiencing increased competition in their markets than they have before. Patients have more options than they've ever had before in the aesthetic space. The last 6 to 9 months, I've spent a lot of time with the practices I work with, telling them that I don't kind of my prediction for this year, I don't expect them to achieve the same levels of growth based solely on marketing and new patients alone. Um, where we're good, if not a better way to grow revenue and profitability is ensuring that we're managing and treating our current patients as well as we absolutely can. So, thinking about patient retention, thinking about rebooking, thinking about comprehensively treatment planning and getting that treatment plan scheduled throughout the year. So, what does that look like? A lot of that comes back to a strong, effective consultation for the provider and that patient on their first visit, comprehensively treatment planning and providing services throughout the year. Makes me think about effectively rebooking patients for their next treatments, ensuring you're doing like everything possible so that patients are not falling through the cracks and that you're not missing the opportunity for them to be on the schedule, and really monitoring patient retention. Are there patients who have been here before, but they haven't been scheduled in the last 3, 6, 12 months, whatever that cadence may be? Those are some of the things that, really need to be focused in on to ensure you're really maximizing the revenue and profitability potential within your current patients, in addition to those new patients that are always going to, ideally come in through those marketing strategies.
Right. Steve, what's a good rate according to you for rebooking, and what's a good frequency at that too? Do you have any numbers
I,
for us?
I love to see 80%. And it's tricky because not every EMR is going to have the ability to really effectively or accurately show that. There's can be kind of a wide variability within the systems out there. But in an ideal world, 80% of patients are leaving that appointment with their next appointment booked. That's going to
Right.
help kind of feed that sustainable, revenue coming in the future, keeping provider schedules full and utilization high.
Appreciate that, Steve. Now, Laura, when longtime patients cancels after seeing a competitor's promotional offer and no one on the team reaches out, what does that moment cost the practice over the following year?
Uh, it's, it's not just the loss of that, of like the cost, it's the loss of that relationship, right? And I tell my practices, we don't compete on price, we compete on value. That like we don't compete on price at all. I always think your offer has to be so good. Like your memberships have to be so good. The value there has to be so good. And the practices that I see that have that value, the person down the street with the shiny new, price or like the new deal, they won't go to them because they know the value and expertise are with them. Again, that longtime patient already trusts you. They already understand like your standard and your level of care. So they're not going to go, down the street and cancel. But you can't allow that price to be like that voice again. You're and that and what kind of Steve just said, that includes, your follow-ups, your CRM systems, your front desk, your front desk KPIs, um, how many follow-ups are they doing. It's just creating that relationship all the time and that personal touch. And again, the mistreatment revenue, I mean, number one, it costs the membership. Then you get fewer referrals. Then you get loss of retail. Um, and it can really kind of do like your team, like your morale with your team can kind of, so it's like, how do we really talk with the team and have those team meetings about like, what can we do? What can we do differently? Again, and maybe tweaking those memberships to really protect those relationships with your clients.
Competing on value. How are you showing your value, to your existing clients?
There's so many different ways. I mean, there's education, there's adding in things like the world of aesthetics changes. I mean, not even just every day. I feel like it changes by hour. So you need to keep up with education. You need to show your patients that. I have so many practices or so many patients that they don't even know they offer that or that because so that's why they maybe go down the street because they didn't know that client. So it's always updating that too. We talk about like giving them tours through the building, updating prices and like or updating your menu at the front desk or saying, hey, did you know this? It just really, really makes a difference in the practice.
Hey, did you know this? Appreciate that, Laura. Uh, Madeline, patient churn after a single treatment is probably one of the largest hidden revenue losses in aesthetics, right? So, what signal tells you a practice has a retention problem before the revenue damage shows up?
Sure. Yeah, I think the earliest signal is not usually the revenue. It's like the lack of continuity in the patient journey. So a lot of practices are very focused on acquisition, which makes sense. They are trying to get the lead book and book the consult and get the patient in the chair. So where I see a gap is after the first visit. If the patient leaves without a clearly documented next step, without follow-up cadence, and without long-term aesthetic goal tied to their treatment plan, that is a retention problem. Um, that is a retention problem. Um, and that is a retention issue that will happen before the revenue even is happening. And so for an owner, I would look at a few things. I would look at, are patients rebooking at checkout? Are they only coming back when there's a promo? Does the team know that the patient is ultimately trying to achieve what they're trying to achieve, or are they just treating it the day of the concern? And I would also look at the handoff between the provider and the front desk. So in my opinion, the consultation is everything. I think the consultation is incredibly underutilized, and that is your opportunity to not only showcase your services, but also to learn about your patient, build that relationship, and have multi-goal treatment plans in place. And those can be, for different wellness services and also aesthetic services. And so it's a comprehensive care plan for your patient, and it is not going to be done all in one day. And so you have that opportunity to create that treatment plan, show them what it looks like, and then hand that off to the front desk for checkout. But I also think during that consultation, is when you should really get that commitment, or at least a feel for that commitment, before, because it's not really, it's a lot of responsibility to put on a front desk.
Mhm.
They're already doing so many other things. They might have 3 people to check out at the same time. So I don't think that at the right time to just expect your front desk to handle all of that. And also, with the, in today's age, AI is really, really going to start being utilized. And so, like, a lot of value is lost after hours. And so, utilizing different, I work for a company that does that. So, after hours, using AI to convert and to do your consultations before you have your consultation. Then when people get in the door, they already know what you want, and you're able to convert them much easier.
Yeah, I can just go off of that. I've obviously learned about many AI services that do that, or they're like pre-vetting, or there's even like real life people now pre-vetting your treatment plans before, and like just qualifying your patients before you even get in the door. And it's just really, really great because really people don't want just like your lips done or Botox. I really want somebody to tell me what completely I need. And if we kind of do that virtually or qualify people before, I think that's such a game changer. And it's easier than on the provider, easier on the front desk for selling. Um, I love that.
Point you made, Madeline, that really resonated with me. Um, just with regards to like when and who is kind of responsible for that rebooking. I find from my perspective in talking with practice owners, the providers that really take ownership of that patient relationship and like set that expectation and really drive it, whether they're the ones actually going into the schedule and like booking that next appointment, it's like that's where I see the most effective like rebooking happen, right? Like the patient comes in, I don't want to take anything away from the front desk. Like front desk experience is very important, but they come in because they have that relationship with the provider. They have the trust with the provider. So if the provider is really driving that and taking ownership, that's just where I see the most success with that rebooking piece. And practices that don't have that and maybe have providers that are just looking to come in and take care of the appointments that are on the schedule for the day and move on, like that's where I oftentimes see gaps in what that future schedule looks like. So I think that's a really good point.
Don't you think it's like that authority like piece too? Like the providers have that authority to then hand it off to the front desk and
Yeah.
maybe close it or just like kind of confirm what the provider like suggested.
Yeah.
I feel
Love
like
that.
I
Mhm.
feel that during the consultation or the pre-consultation, whether you use an artificial intelligence service or you have a front desk person gauging what that patient is wanting, I think it's important to listen to psychological factors or how experienced they are, what is their price restrictions,
Mhm.
and to really listen to those signals to understand how um, to provide an offer and what type of offer. Maybe you do 3 different levels, so that they don't feel overwhelmed. And then I just think that's part of a membership is to offer them a long-term treatment plan,
Mhm.
at different phases, and that will evolve. It's not going to probably stay as is, as
Don't
it,
you think too, like treatment plans, it's kind of like some people are like super aggressive. And so usually that's more
yeah,
money. Or some
yes,
people have like a longer term, can do like a longer term treatment plan, maybe for a little less money or a little less invasive, if you want to say
for
too.
sure,
Mhm.
for sure. Same goal with
Mhm.
different routes. And, for wellness services, for example, those are innately long term because like weight loss,
Yeah.
medically supervised, you can't do that in one day. And um, so I think that
Yep.
just really listening to and asking the right questions, taking time with your patient, whether it's a new patient or existing, I think operationally, it's a great idea to revamp your consultation and utilize that for all purposes.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I do a lot of working backwards with people who have like events. So I have a lot of people that, like, for example, like their daughter or son are getting married. And so they want to like kind of work, they want to feel their best. So we have like kind of a year or year and a half, or sometimes even 6 months. And it's like, what can we do to make you feel your best?
Absolutely.
I love this conversation. That was great. There was so much things there. Yeah, and I just have a little follow-up to Steve there when you were talking about the effectiveness of rebooking. Um, when the pro how do you encourage a provider to really take that ownership?
Oh, you're like hitting on such a pain point for me and a couple of my practices because we're working through that now of like, hey, like if you want to see success in this industry, if you want to see success in this part of your practice, like you have to be willing to take that ownership. You have to take that lead. They are coming to you looking for your recommendation. They're looking to you as the expert to drive what should this look like for the rest of this year. And people who are timid or don't have the confidence or are uncomfortable or feel like it's too salesy, like that's a tough hump to get over. But that's where really practice owners need to, one, identify that as a problem, and then two, figure out what resources do we need to set this provider up for success. Because if that doesn't I've seen it a number of times where if they don't adjust their mindset to really taking ownership of their patients and the care they're providing, it's tough to kind of get over a certain hump. I'd be
Well,
curious, Laura or
no,
Madeline, if you have some other thoughts to that from your perspective.
I love this conversation because I mean it goes back to sales, and that's I love sales, and it goes back to putting yourself in if you're a provider and like you're putting yourselves in like their wallet kind of, what am I trying to say is you might have in your mind or your mindset, oh, I can't afford this myself, or I would never spend $200 on a serum myself, and you're putting that onto them. And you don't know their situation and you don't know how they spend their money. Maybe they don't, you don't know how, you don't count their money. Um, so I always feel like I mean, I have millionaires, I have billionaires, and I have hard just working people, but they, love skincare, and they might spend thousands and thousands of dollars on skincare a year, and that's how they spend their money. So I think as providers, we kind of get this thing where I can't do this treatment plan for them of what they really need. Like they
Mhm.
really need X, Y, and Z, but I'm so scared to sell them X, Y, and Z and tell them that. And it's like why? I want to know. I want to know like all my options. And maybe I only want to pick one today, but I want to know that you really recommended me all of this. And then again, maybe there's other options. Again, that's why we talk about treatment plans and payment plans and memberships and doing things like a little bit at a time. So I love this conversation.
So just building off that, I feel, in this aesthetics industry, they say recommend, not sell. And so I think that it's important for the provider, if they are not comfortable or they're unable to take the time with that patient to learn about, some of their goals and needs and what they are personally interested in. Because I'm sure that if you had a conversation, that they would tell you that they love skincare.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
but if you don't have that conversation, then you don't know, and then you're, uneasy. And so, an option for that I think a way to prevent that or to solve that would be to update your intake form.
I was just gonna
Ask
say
the
like
right
a consult form.
questions.
Mhm.
Yep. Ask the right questions and really review that before meeting with the patient. It's important I mean, it's a very emotional industry. So people are going to buy based on emotion and it's confidence and it's how you feel, how you look. And so I just think it's really important to ask the right questions. Again, tying back to that.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I love I love a pre-vetting. I love a consult form. I love like we call it or an intake form or a client interest. People call it now like a client interest questionnaire. And again, that could go to your menu and somebody not realizing, oh, you offer weight loss, or I didn't know you offered this. I didn't know you offered this. And it kind of takes that, or, looking into their what they do want to improve. Because again, none of this is like necessary. It's just really, really just nice to do.
Right.
And so putting that on there, I think is great.
We've talked about the importance of the consultation. Now I'm curious as to what you would think is the ideal time, the length of the consultation. What should that average be? I would love to get an answer from all the panelists, really. Steve?
I'm the wrong person to start with on this one. I'll say
Okay.
that.
All right.
From I'll say, again, coming from like the CFO finance lens, like I want to see a strong consultation that sets that expectation with the patient, gets a good plan together, for them that the provider and the practice can execute to. How long that takes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes. If it's effective, it's probably worth as much time as it needs from my perspective, but I'll default to Laura Madeline.
So I would say I worked with a very operationally sound multi-location practice who really they were the ones that actually really introduced this consultation concept. Every single person that walks in the door, they take 20 minutes, 30 minutes around that time to get to know their patients. And they have a consultation room where they sit them in there and they get to know them, they showcase the services, and they have it in they present them with what they are looking for based on that intake. And I saw that it was incredible conversion from people don't always know what they want. They might think they know what they want, but they don't know until they get in the chair or in the consultation room what they actually need. And so I think that it's great to listen and also to understand that they want to be told what maybe they don't know about. And there's so many different modalities and treatments these days. There's like so many things to solve the same problem. And so options are out there.
And there's so many different price points too. Like we said, like non-invasive versus invasive or downtime versus downtime. Like I want to know it all.
Right. So, Laura, would you also say 20 to 30 minutes per consult is a good average?
I was gonna say I was gonna go to Steve with this, but it depends if you're charging, right? I hopefully you're charging.
That's an interesting point though too, Laura. I was having this conversation with a practice just last week where they were debating, oh, should we charge for the consultation? Should we not? And again, going back to that, and like something I want to get into a little bit more is like by nature, this industry, it's a recurring service, right? Like whether we have a membership program that has literally those recurring dollars coming in, again, if we're providing an effective consultation, we're setting the expectation for what this should look like. We're comprehensively treatment planning throughout the year. We're effectively rebooking and getting those future visits scheduled. It is going to be recurring. And at that rate, and if we're looking at some of those other metrics like revenue per hour, revenue per appointment, those are things that I'm looking to kind of define like, hey, are we middle of the road? Are we better than average? Where are there opportunities? Who are your higher performers? Who has opportunities to improve? Charging $50, $100, $150 for a consultation, I don't necessarily care because I want them rebooked for those next appointments that are going to generate 450, 550, 600 plus, in revenue per appointment. So, I would say generally I'm not seeing consultations take longer than an hour. That's for certain. And usually, around the 30-minute mark.
And as I was thinking about this, I was just, this specific practice, they utilized actually Groupon to get people in the door. And so people had already purchased a service And so that's consultation. But also, I think that having the consultation add value by offering the consultation to be a skin analysis, or you're giving them value by sitting down with them, and so paying for it, or it could be used towards the services, right? So you're paying $100, but it's going to go towards the service.
I like
and
that.
therefore,
Yeah. I like
Yeah.
I do like paying for the consultation, because again, you're paying for some of their time, their expertise, their expertise and what they should be getting done. And I think that's really nice to, just apply it to their service.
Now, Laura, how do you decide between keeping membership benefits simple enough for patients to understand and making them specific enough to drive consistent treatment utilization, that revenue per hour?
I struggle with this. I think it needs to be very simple to understand. It needs to be, but again, adding that value and really knowing what your customers want. Again, are your customers more skin focused? And again, is that getting that in the door with like a hydrofacial every month, or is that a particular like laser? Are they looking for percentage off that? Are they looking for injectables? Are they looking for GLP-1s? I think you really need to know your ideal client, your ideal patient, and again, what they are, and their where are they, their demographic, and again, what they're looking for. That it needs to be very straightforward, again, on the website, in the treatment rooms with the consultation. Again, we talked about before, group meetings and group huddles, and I've been in practices before where, again, just the information gets lost, and like we talked about, like the owner knows it all, or it's all in their head, but not communicating that to the providers or the front desk of like what these actual offers are, and getting the providers excited about, this membership program and about this revenue coming in, and it can really change the practice, lives, and the providers' lives. And it's all about consistency. At the end of the day, it's either a treatment plan, a membership. The more you see your patient, the more you touch them, the more you communicate with them, the better outcome that they are going to have, that they are going to go tell their friends, that they're going to be super happy, and the more revenue that you'll bring in. But yeah, the best version is very simple language, clear monthly value, clear treatment, recommendations, and again, always booking before their next visit, like we said.
Now, Madeline, you spoke about Groupon. So how do you decide between pricing membership low enough to drive enrollment and high enough to protect the practice's premium positioning?
Sure. So yeah, I think that this is where practices have to be very careful, because the goal of membership should not be just enrollment. A lot of the times memberships get treated like discount programs, and in a premium aesthetic practice, that can be really risky. If the membership is positioned as pay this amount and get this discounted service, then you might get people to sign up, but you can also train patients to think transactionally, which is the opposite of what you want. That's honestly not the type of patient that you do want. You'll take them, but they're not your ideal. And so instead, they start shopping for the deal instead of buying the plan. And so I would look at pricing through the lens of the brand, the margin, and the patient behavior. Is the price accessible enough that the right patient sees value? Yes, but it also has to be high enough to protect the practice's positioning and not create a discount-driven patient base. This is definitely not who can price it the lowest type of industry at all.
I should reiterate that. Talk to Steve and you guys about your margins, your cost of goods, all of that too, before you do a membership offer.
Yes, absolutely. The value should really be around consistency, like you said, access, planning, better long-term outcomes, and not just savings. Like, for example, the patient should feel like, okay, this helps me stay on track, budget more comfortably, and actually follow through on treatments I already want to do. So it holds them accountable, but it also gives them added value. So the added value part is, so important. And I think that pricing structure is also, again, geographic, and also what is your ideal customer profile look like, and what can you do while still making profit margin. And so I think that there's value that can be added through services, and also through giving them the opportunity to make their own decisions within that practice, at a rate that they're more comfortable with, right? And so from the owner side, the membership should increase visit frequency, retention, and lifetime value without eroding margin or creating a ton of administrative law drag. So I would rather see practice have smaller, healthier membership base, patients who are actually engaged in continuing care, than a large membership base that looks good on paper but does not drive a profitable behavior. Because a good membership would protect premium positioning by selling structure, not discounts.
That's very interesting. And let's move to Steve, actually, with that, like Laura mentioned. So, Steve, when a practice owner is modeling these membership programs and pricing, what inputs actually determine whether a price point supports margin or it might compress it?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of already mentioned by nature, ideally, our practices are seeing recurring revenue because we're rebooking patients, we're comprehensively treatment planning, all the things we've talked about. I'll have some practices come to me and they're like, "Hey, we don't have a membership program. We want one. What should we do?" I'm like, "Well, like, what are you wanting to accomplish?" Because I'll have some owners come to me and say, "We want the recurring revenue." I'm like, "Well, we already have that." Like, people are coming back to see us. Like, the purpose of the membership isn't to see like on the P&L this, membership dollar amount that keeps coming in month over month. Like, I'm less interested in that and more interested in, is our membership accomplishing what we want? Are we adding value to our patients? Are our patients getting their desired outcomes through the treatments that are being recommended? And all the while, are we sure we're not giving away too much? I'm especially sensitive. I hope others are too, but I'm especially sensitive to this as relates to injectables, just due to the consumable cost being as high as it is. So understanding what are the injectables prices in our market of our competitors, like that's typically doing some secret shopping is typically a task that I'll give to practices that are looking to put this on, because like we want to make sure we're priced appropriately. This really goes even outside of memberships, but especially when looking to add a membership program. What's the difference between the member and non-member injectable pricing? What's our pricing with the vendors that we're working with? And is that relationship tied to one vendor or multiple vendors? The consumable spend is a percentage of revenue. I mean, that's something that I'm reviewing and discussing with practices on a monthly basis. And what plays into this too is our service mix between injectables and lasers and other energy-based devices. These are the questions that I'm asking practices for them to understand what price points make sense for their membership model and to be smart about discounting and preserving profitability for the practice. Very common practices come to us and they're like, "We don't know if this is good. Can you evaluate it?" And I mean, I've got that exercise running with our analyst team and two of the practices that I work with right now. So it's definitely an important talking point and not a decision to be taken lightly. Like adding a membership program, making adjustments to pricing of an existing program, it takes a lot of analysis to feel confident with any of those additions or changes.
That's very interesting. I was just curious, if possible, if we can do a hypothetical scenario where, the practice is, running on primarily injectables, and they want to introduce a membership program, specifically, like you said, to accomplish a great outcome, by the end of the day. What what's like a comfortable percentage, do you think, like, would be if we were to, mm, is there a better word than discount?
I, yeah.
Hey,
It's
call.
tough to put either a dollar or percentage to what the discount should be, but I will say,
Mhm.
Don, like the exercise to get granular, like really quickly, the exercise that we would run through is like, I want to know how many units are we typically selling at each different price point, whether it be a member price point or non-member. Some patients get discounts, and like we want to understand like what is the norm. And what does this look like if we apply a discount? How does that impact the P&L? Like, what does that discount mean to profitability? Likewise, the reverse of that is, hey, if we haven't increased prices in a year or two, probably time for us to consider that. So again, break down like how many units have we given at certain price points? What does it look like if we would have sold this at $1 more per unit, $2 more per unit? Do we feel we might be at risk of losing some patients? Let's factor that in to understand. I will say in the last 6 months, two of my higher volume med spas have increased prices because they haven't in about 2 years, which is if you haven't in 2 years, you're overdue for increasing prices, my opinion. And one of them reported like no patients said anything. Like they accepted the increased price again because they have that relationship with the provider. This is also the examples that I have in mind are also provider teams that are taking ownership of their patients. They are making strong recommendations. They are treatment planning and treating them throughout the year. And those patients aren't coming for price. They're coming for that experience. They're coming due to that trust. Um, Now, we just then want to be responsible and, hey, we're not looking to just increase price to increase price. We're increasing price because the cost to the practice has increased over the last year or two as well. And if we're not passing some of that along to the patient, then it's going to eat away at profitability and get in the way of making future investments for the practice, which in the end is going to benefit patients.
No,
Right.
I can kind of jump on that. I'm in my clinic, we run a skincare clinic and we're on the more high end side of luxury treatments. And it being on the high, it's a good thing. I don't compete on price. I don't compete on $100 facials, even $200 facials anymore. We just don't do it, and we don't have a problem at all. It's about, your expertise and your provider's education, your value, your everything. They come to you for that trust and that trust factor. So I completely agree.
I just have two thoughts on
Right.
that. So, with regards to discounting for especially with injectables, because a lot of that is set by the manufacturer or your rep. So if you have a large practice and you purchase a lot at one time, or they have a promo going on, you can set your price differently than somebody who buys a little bit at a time and maybe doesn't have that relationship. And so, and oftentimes they are direct to consumer these days. A lot of like Allergan, uh, they market directly to the consumer, and so they're already discounting. They'll come in and they'll use their like Ally rewards and get discounts from that. And so there's that. But also another idea, and I had this a long time ago, and I think it's still valuable, is banking, like pre-purchasing um, Botox or whatever injectable. And then also to leverage your products. I mean, the profit margin is pretty huge on that. If you can recommend them and sell them and use them as a complementary service or treatment additive, I think that is also beneficial.
I can speak on that. It's a huge, huge part of our business. We do tons of, we have a huge online shop, and it's not only is it, profitable and it's amazing, but again, we're talking about at the end of the day, I want the best outcome for our patients, and that includes home care. I just always say it's like going to the gym or going to a trainer again, and like, and your food intake and stuff like that. If you can package it and really educate somebody about um, this retail, again, not just selling them, really recommending and really educating about these products will complement your laser treatment or complement your microneedling, or everything just ties together. It's huge. It's the best outcome possible. That's what we want.
That's exactly what we want. Now we're going to take a quick pause here. All right. Speaking of great outcomes, let's really, like I mentioned earlier on, we have a great resource for everyone here tonight. So the first half of this conversation, we have been building something genuinely valuable, right? The practical framework for retention, recurring revenue, better membership design, smarter pricing. There's just one more layer that makes all of this land. And right now, while we're talking, someone in your market is searching for the exact treatments you offer. Another is comparing aesthetic practices near them. And another one is checking reviews before deciding who they trust with their face, their skin, and most importantly, their confidence. So the question to you is, does your practice show up when they search? And does your online presence make them feel confident enough to choose you? Well, that is where Echo Marketing comes in. And after today's discussion on recurring revenue and loyalty, this complimentary marketing strategy meeting will help you see whether your online presence is attracting the right patients to fill and sustain your membership program. So the link is being dropped in the chat below. You can go ahead and scan that QR code on your screen as well to book your complimentary marketing strategy meeting with Echo Marketing. The review will look at patient demand, how your practice appears in search and AI-powered results, and how your local visibility compares against your nearby aesthetic practices, aka your competitors. So go ahead and book your meeting with Equa. It'll be time well spent. There's no commitment, there's no obligation whatsoever. It's a practical review of your online presence, local competition, and the gaps that may be costing you your new patient opportunities. So take a moment to book it now, and then we will be continuing on with our conversation. Right. So this is a Ask Me Anything session we got lined up for everyone here. And I have a couple of registrant questions that I would like to get into as the chat warms up. Right, let me see. Yeah. So, okay, one of our questions here, I think has been answered, but perhaps we can, yeah. Strategy for adjusting membership pricing when cost of goods increase, Robin. Steve, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, similar to, I think we kind of hit on this before. We need to be assessing pricing, I would say annually. Maybe we're not increasing everything every year, but at least taking a step back, understanding like from the financial statements, what is your injectables, your consumables as a percent of revenue, understanding the benchmarks of what's kind of average, better, best, less than desirable as far as what those financial outcomes are. That's an important piece to understand. And if you're not where you want to be, pricing is one of the many levers available to you to improve that consumable spend. Again, I've seen it happen with memberships that are just flat out giving too much away. So doing an analysis of your program, understanding, what your margins are for the services, including in that membership. Those are all things, that it's important to take a step back and analyze. So, Don, let me know if I answered that question fully. Those are just some talking, like when I'm thinking about analyzing a membership program and analyzing, do we increase prices? Those are some things that come to mind and some steps that I would take.
I have a question, Steve, if you're seeing this. Do you, again, memberships or people looking at like shiny object syndrome, or the practice, they're doing a membership down the street. Do you think they just put up prices based on another practice's prices?
I
Or
think so.
or do you think they actually like hire or like, the professionals to really, if they can't do it, really break down their costs of goods and their costs of everything?
Because I do want to know what's happening in the market. Like we do want to know,
Yeah.
are we the more expensive? Are we
Mhm.
on the lower end?
Mhm.
To your point, Laura, like that kind of determines like what are your selling points? You
Mhm.
know, are we the practice that's selling ourselves on price, or are we selling it on experience and on outcomes?
Mhm.
And that's important for your team to be aware of. That's
Mhm.
important for your team to have the confidence and understanding of the practice's identity and what you're bringing to the patients. I do. I feel like consumables, the injectables spend, like all of that in relation to revenue, um, I would say is one of the few big areas that practice owners don't have a ton of context for.
Yeah, that's just what I'm saying. I mean, again, we should know our competition, but I'm feeling like somebody will just look at their menu or a website, even just their even basic menu, not just their membership menu, and be
Mhm.
like, oh, I should do the same prices or very similar prices when those prices are, it's very different.
Yep.
Your bills are not their bills. It's going to be very
Yep.
different. So,
Exactly. Yeah. To Madeline's point, as far as what that pricing looks like with the vendors, and what is that service mix too? Like that changes things. So there's a
yeah.
lot of factors that goes into that. Yeah, just because your competition down the street is doing something, whether it be how their membership model is designed, what their pricing is, that's not a good enough reason to jump on board and mirror that.
Hmm. Agree.
Yeah, just one
Thanks
that
for adding
maybe
to that.
um, sometimes discounting, I think it seems like the right thing to do, but there's also the opportunity to add more value at with little cost. There are treatments or services that you can do that cost nearly nothing, and they take 2 minutes, like a B12 shot or something. And that's valuable to a patient, and so you can add, services that don't cost a lot or take a lot of time, but they're very valuable to a patient, and therefore, the discounting element of it is less important.
100%. Even we like a dermaplaning.
Yep. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Mhm.
That's great. Robin, we really hope that you got the answers you were looking for. There were some great tidbits there. So please let us know if you have any further questions to add on to that. Then we also had hmm, Ibanez Garcia asking us how aesthetic practices can select the best procedure for a patient among all avalanche options. Hmm. Laura, would you like to start us off on that?
I mean, it starts with your consultation, and what they're looking for. Are you talking about um like buying a machine? Are they talking about kind of building the practice, like buying a machine of like what to buy, or are they talking about like that consultation of like what to do for that patient?
I assume the best procedure because that's what they're asking. The treatment plan, perhaps?
Yeah, the treatment plan, again, that goes down to their goals. Again, we talked about some people have a timeline, some people have their goals is to look amazing in 6 months for an event, or is it a year? Or again, they have to be on camera all the time, so they don't want any downtime. Um, Again, that's part of that intake form, and that consultation is going to be huge. Do they want to treat everything at once? Do they want to treat, are they just really just focused on like their neck, for example? And then again, giving them all the options. But that consultation is going to be just talking to your patient. Listen, I shouldn't say talking, I should say listening to your patient is going to be the best thing for you to do.
I was just going to chime in. I also think utilizing, if you don't have if you don't feel that you have the staff, maybe they're not qualified or they don't have the expertise to know. I think that is where they're like the company I work for, they know how to do that. The artificial intelligence, it is trained with a closed loop of medical knowledge to where it can recommend services that are consistent for a patient based on what they are saying to them. And so I think that if technology is one way to resolve that, and I also think listening to, as you said, the cues, the psychological cues, and other factors, and also looking at your different services and trying to make a comprehensive plan. It does take time. It does take time, but if the multitude of services that you offer, I think that in combination with each other, you can create plans for patients that are best for their goals. And so, yeah.
I should add, you need to be really honest too. I feel like honesty is the best policy, and you need to be very transparent. If you cannot treat that patient, you need to tell them and say, like, I don't have this laser for you, or I don't have this expertise for you, but I will send you down the street to X, Y, and Z. They will thank you for that. They will be so appreciative, and they'll trust you even probably more and come back to you in tenfold even more. I just think I've seen that so many times, and where we don't have, we tell them we don't have that laser, we don't have the expertise, or dealing with unrealistic expectations, right? You need to be very communicative with them about we just don't think we have what we have, or we don't have the devices for you of what you were looking for. I think that's huge.
Okay. Now, Madeline, 90 days after a membership launches, which single number tells you whether the program is building real recurring revenue or just adding on administrative noise?
Well, if I had to pick one number, I would look at the percentage of members who have completed or scheduled their next revenue generating visit, because recurring revenue billing by itself does not always mean recurring revenue. So let's put it another way. Practice can have a member paying monthly, but if those patients are not coming back and not moving through a treatment plan and not purchasing additional treatments and doing so in a profitable way, then the membership may just be creating administrative noise. So the monthly plan at 90 days, I would want to know, is the membership changing the patient behavior? So are members rebooking? Are they showing up? Are they progressing through their treatment plans? Are they spending beyond the membership fee in a way that makes sense for their goals and for the practice? I think that one metric is the one that would connect the membership back to the real business outcome. And because the point is not just to collect monthly dues, that provides no value to the patient. And the point is to create a more predictable patient journey and increase retention and drive lifetime value. So the way I would say it is recurring billing is not the same as recurring revenue. The proof is whether the membership drives the next visit.
That's a very interesting distinction right there, Madeline. All right, and we have arrived at the top of the hour here. So I want to ask each of you for your 60-second golden rule for aesthetic membership and loyalty programs. If a practice owner remembers only one thing from our conversation here tomorrow morning, what should it be? Steve, let's start with you.
I would say do not feel pressured to have a membership plan. Really think through what is your goal, what are your intentions of adding that plan, and ensure that you design the plan to achieve those goals, not just because it seems like the next thing for your practice to do or because others in your market are doing it. I see plenty of practices be very successful, have high patient retention rates, have high rebooking rates, high utilization, high profitability without it. So just be really thoughtful, design it the right way to accomplish what you want.
Laura?
I was just gonna say, talk to Steve before you design it.
Be smart about it. Look at all the scenarios. There's so
And just
much.
and just that it's great, but you just need to know your numbers. Yeah, I think you need to know your numbers. I think you need to know everything, as far as what things are costing you. And I think as business owners, we're so busy and it's so hard to do everything. We're doing, a lot of times the operations, the marketing, everything, the finance, everything. And or even if you just want to outsource like this one thing, like have a conversation with Steve to really kind of look under the hood and see what you can do. It's my best advice.
Amazing. And then last but not least, Madeline, wrap us up.
The main takeaway I would present is that growth in aesthetics is not just about getting more leads. It's about creating that patient journey that creates the lifetime value of the patient. I think one thing I would recommend is to utilize the tools around you. If you don't have time to do something, or if you don't know how to do something, utilize the tools that are out there, and they will help you long term. And also be open to change. Be open to change in what you're doing currently. Maybe you need to operationally do something different, and that might make a huge difference long term. So, in terms of membership, I would say make sure that you're providing a value that is beyond just the transaction.
Mhm.
Amazing. Love that. Thank you very much, panelists. And then I'm just going to do a quick reminder right here about the great giveaway from Echo Marketing, the marketing strategy meeting. If you are interested in being the number one practice that shows up when your ideal patients are looking for the treatments that you love to offer, well, go ahead and book that strategy meeting and figure out where you are at in terms of your digital presence. The link is dropped in the chat box one last time, QR codes on the screen. And with that, we have arrived. I would like to extend my gratitude to Laura, Madeline, Steve. Thank you so much for your expertise and being really so selfless and giving us all the tidbits here. And for our attendees, thank you so much for investing this hour into your practice's success. Now, as you exit this webinar, there will be a quick survey that'll pop up. Please take the time to fill it out. It'll help us bring even more better events. For our panelists, do stay on the line for 2 extra minutes. We'll have a quick live debrief. With that being said, thank you to everyone who joined us live tonight. We'll see you on the next Business of Aesthetics expert panel. Dan and Disha signing off. Take care. Bye-bye.